talk about how all of these overnight cues really impact us, as well as the individual stocks that you should track. We have Ekta, Surbhi, as well as Nigel all here to take us through the trade setup this morning. Guys, a very good morning to all of you. Ekta, coming to you first. I mean, I'm sure you heard us talk about what's going on with the global market. So the handover definitely is extremely weak today.
Morning. Well, yes, it continues because yesterday we saw weakness in IT as well as financials, which kept the markets under pressure. The Nifty ended below 19,700. 40 out of 50 Nifty stocks closed in the red in yesterday's trading session. The Bank Nifty slipped over 500 odd points. FII's net sold over 1,800 odd crores. DII's net bought around 1,469 crores. So that four-digit figure in terms of FII's was back on the table in terms of a sell figure. The rupee ended flat, but it's still weak at around 83.26. Now, there is risk off globally, like you mentioned. So gold has jumped to more than a 2-month peak. Brent crude is holding above $90 per barrel, which is above 2-week highs. We have US markets which closed lower. That's because the yields have surged to 16-year highs. We had earnings such as Tesla, which disappointed. Asia, which is largely weak. GIFT Nifty indicating a start in the red. In terms of earnings reaction, we have Wipro, Bajaj Auto, LTI, Mindtree, Shoppers Stop. All of these stocks will be in focus. And in terms of cues for our markets, geopolitics will be top of mind. Besides that, any kind of impact in terms of Brent crude prices, what Iran's indication would be in the next couple of days would be important to track. The US Fed Chair Powell is going to be speaking on the 19th, which is today, so we'll be reacting to that tomorrow. And separately, a lot of earnings to watch out for, especially from the FMCG space. HUL, ITC, Nestle. Consumption will be in focus on account of PVR, Inox, Havells, and even Ultratech Cement.
All right, Ekta, thanks a lot for taking us through all of those cues. That is everything that we should watch for in today's trading session. But let's also talk about the stocks which could be in focus. Surbhi, like Ekta was pointing out, a lot of big earnings coming through post-market close yesterday. So take us through how they were.
Hi, so a lot of big earnings, as you said. First one is Bajaj Auto. It was a good set of numbers. The revenues were up 6% on a year-on-year basis. The EBITDA was up 20%. Margins came in at 19.8% versus 17% same time last year. Coforge, they announced their results just a while ago. The revenue was pretty much in line with the poll. Revenue came in at 2276 crores, but the EBIT and the margins were a miss. EBIT came in at 264 crores versus the poll of 300 crores, and the margins came in at 11.6% versus a poll of 13%. IndusInd Bank, the profit and loss beats the poll. The net interest income is up 1.4%, and the PAT came in at 2182 crores. Bandhan Bank, the asset quality has deteriorated, and the PNL is also below the poll. The slippages came in at 1320 crores, and the gross NPA came in at 7.32%. Wipro, it was a weak Q2. The dollar revenue was down 2.3%, and the company has guided for negative 3.5% to negative 1.5% revenue in Q3 of FY24. Persistent Systems, it was a good revenue growth of 3.2%, but it was a margin miss at 13.7% versus estimates of 14.1%. ICICI Lombard, a good set of numbers. The premium growth of 18% on a year-on-year basis, and the combined ratio is now improved to 103.9%. And some other companies that may react to their numbers is Astral, Shoppers Stop, Titagarh Rail, UTI AMC, and RPG Life Sciences.
That is a very long list of stocks. Surbhi, thanks a lot for bringing us up to speed with all of that action. But let's also talk about cues from the futures and options space. Nigel is here with that. Nigel, we saw a close below the 20 DMA yesterday. How's it looking this morning?
Well, the odds are stacked against the bulls, right, Pavitra, this morning. Whether you look at the yesterday's close or you look at the cues that we're waking up to, the yields, the dollar index, Brent crude prices, most factors against the bulls today. So today actually is going to be a day of survival. You don't want to see a very, very deep cut in today's trading session. And yesterday, towards the end of the day, well, you saw the Nifty Bank that ended at the low point of the day, and that was the big drag. Remember, that played out expiry yesterday, and that was clearly weighing on the market, so an underperformer yet again. In terms of open interest build-up, well, there was shorting being seen on the Nifty Bank because the Nifty ended lower, open interest was lower, but the Nifty Bank ended lower and open interest was up closer around 30%. And the FI data perfectly collaborates with that because the FI has added closer on 15,000 short contracts. On the long side, they added closer on 7,000 contracts. So they added shorts to longs in the positions of closer on 2:1. The PCR, though, has moved down to around 0.8. Remember, in the past, we have seen when the PCR moves around 0.67, 0.7, that's where the market bottoms, makes a near-term bottom. But yesterday, in fact, it came down to around 0.8, so it still has some distance to go. And why is that? Because the call writing has been very, very aggressive. The 19,800 call now has close to around 1.6 crore shares in terms of open interest. The premium has come down to around 12 rupees from around 70 rupees. But the 19,600 put, well, on the put side, that has the highest open interest. And keep in mind, the difference between both of them is nearly around 70 lakh shares, telling you the kind of aggression we're seeing on the call writing side. So let's go to the data points then. Since the 19,600 put has the highest open interest with 20 rupees premium, the support will come in at around 19,580. That's as per the options data. While the 20 DMA, that's where we ended at close to yesterday. And the near term, the 50 DMA is what we're looking at. The Nifty Bank, well, that's going to be very, very important. Will it see some kind of a bounce? Because that one has been moving one direction. That's just down. The 20 DMA on the upside, that'll be a bit of a resistance. The 200 DMA, does the Nifty Bank want to test the 200 DMA? That's the question that the bulls will be asking themselves. If they believe not, then they could buy the dip that we'll get earlier today. Otherwise, it looks in all probability that the 200 DMA is on the cards. Back to you.
All right, let's see how that plays out. Nigel, thanks a lot for laying out all of those cues for us. With that, it is time for our first short break on the show. But when we come back, like we told you, Wipro and Bajaj Auto both reported their second quarter earnings post-market close. So we're going to break down the numbers and bring you the fine print in just a bit.